7% of all high school athletes go on to play in college. As proud members of the 93% that didn't, this is Fratletes.
Okay, so welcome back. We are joined today by a very special guest, Ben Chase, who you probably know by this point is going for the record for most games gone to in a single season. It said 60 at first, but we noticed you changed it to 70. Is that the new goal?
Yeah, and just for a caveat, it's the most games on a road trip. There's someone that I know that's gone to 81 games. He's a really great guy. His name's Mike. He'll fly and then he'll drive. He'll fly and he does a lot of driving. But this is like specifically all on the road. And the record was 50. Well, it is 50 as of now. My two brothers in 2016. But I'm going for originally my outline had 62 before the season started, and I picked up 7 games. So last week on my day off, and when I say day off like this, I'm always doing something. Like right now, this is my apartment. That's everything from my van right there. Everything that was in my van you just saw on the ground. Yeah. So I got to sit down. This is my first time opening a laptop in a week. I can barely open my laptop. So I opened my laptop last week. And I was like, all right, originally I had 62. I did 5 double Saturdays. So that's 5 games, right? So that's 67. Yeah. And then I picked up 2 games because of the hurricane. So 69. Nice. I know.
Nice.
And so I was like, all right, let's see what my rest of my outline looks like, and if I can pick up any extra games. So I looked, and there was one Friday that I just had open. And I was like, why? What games are there? And I looked, I was like, oh, it's a 14-hour drive. I said, all right.
Just an easy 14 hours.
Yeah, light 14 hours. All right, so I put it on the list, and then I looked at my bowl games. I think I had 13 already kind of circled, and there was one where it's I put it as a yellow, as a maybe, and I was like, all right, so now we have 71. So now I'm going for 70 with a space game out there, just in case. And I don't know if you guys saw, I'm trying to bring 70 kids to a game in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And because of that, actually, tomorrow we'll probably know the time of the game. So that's the other part, right? I don't know the times of these games until 12, 6 days out, except for the late night games and the weekday games. I always have the schedule. But if it's an early game, say it's a noon game, I'm supposed to be going to Cincinnati on Friday. I may drop the Cincinnati game because logistically I need to help make sure all these kids get to the game and everything. So at this point, the record, if 50, as long as I get 51, I'm good. And if someone comes around and next year is screw Ben, I'm gonna go for 80 games and let's go. I don't know.
Oh, we don't care.
If they do that, great. And there's only one person in the world that will be able to appreciate what they go, because there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes that people don't realize you got to do. I run, I jog across campuses to not only meet people but get to games on time if I peeing in bottles if I need to, shit like that. People don't see that, and so that's kind of the behind the scenes. But yeah, long answer to short question. Yeah, 70 games is kind of the goal now.
So, like you just said, you looked at the schedule and you're like, oh, this game's only a 14-hour drive. Let me add that. What is kind of the marker for hours driven where you're like, okay, it's only that far away. I can add that to the list.
Can I get there before kickoff? Usually is the answer to that question. So and it's one of those things even I've missed a few kickoffs. It's not a big deal. And that's because the things that have no control. For example, from Pullman to Provo, I left and I was like, all right, my original ETA was 5:15 and the game was at 6, which really means 6:15 with kickoff, right? Mm-hmm. But I got into Salt Lake City, which is right where, and I had a 40-minute delay and then a 25-minute delay and then a 19-minute delay. So that's just stuff out of my control. Yeah. But yeah, for example, a few weeks ago, I had I have 3 weddings in the fall. They're all on Sundays though, so that really helps on the strip. But I had a Sunday wedding in Atlanta, and I woke up in a Walmart parking lot on Monday, and my original plan was, all right, I'm going to San Jose. I got plenty of time to get there for the Friday game, right? Monday to Friday, 4 days to get across the country. That's easy. And I was legitimately sitting in the back of my van, Betty White, and that's my van's name. And I opened up ESPN's app, and I was just looking at, I don't know why I thought about doing this. I was like, let me just make sure the schedule looks good. And normally I only do scheduling on my laptop. But I pulled it up and I was like, Wednesday game in Orlando. And I was like, I thought they moved the game to Sunday. So because of Hurricane Ian, the UCF game was originally Saturday, obviously. Then they moved it to Sunday. And because I was, in the middle of a week where my mind is so focused on that week, I didn't realize they pushed it all the way to Wednesday, right? So I woke up Monday in Atlanta and I said, all right, well, I still want to go to the West Coast. I need to do West Coast. Like, can I get from Orlando after a game on Wednesday night to San Jose for a Friday night game? And to answer your question, again, I looked. All right, I said I got 42. I got to do 42 hours of driving or so in 48 hours. Right? I was like, I jokingly said, if this tweet gets 69 retweets, I'm doing it, and that obviously happened in like an hour. And so I drove to Orlando, and then I went all the way across the country. I had 3 hours to spare to nap. Someone got me a hotel for that trip, so that was really awesome. But yeah, so basically, like if Google Maps says I have time, I'm gonna try to go for it.
Now, like, when does a game constitute like a game witness? Do you have to like sit there from kickoff till it ends, or is it like for one quarter?
I say that in every game.
Okay, cool. I didn't know if they're like sticklers. You got to be there before kickoff. You got to leave at the end.
I really don't know because like the guys that did it last time, like that I read reports. It was like there was like a Guinness record, but I looked on Guinness's website and everywhere I can't find it. So I made up my own rules and I'm keeping myself accountable. And like I submitted it to them. I stay at the end of every game period. Like I haven't left early. I get a selfie at the end of every game. I try to do like just in case that's not enough. I like video record like that's the final score, whatever, I applied to Guinness a $5 application, but it takes 12 weeks to hear back. So I hear back like right before bowl season. Yeah, it was $1,000 to do like a 7-day turnaround. I was like, see, the way my bank account works, it's like
that's not possible.
Yeah, I was like, no, I was like, someone got to sponsor me to do a Guinness World Record application, right? So yeah, so my 3 rules are: I wear a shirt and the hat of the home team, unless it's a rival, and that's 6 schools, and I can Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, LSU, Florida State, Miami. Like those are 3. Those are, and I've only been to one game where like I wore neutral game colors, right? Like so that was LSU, Florida State. If someone offers me a drink, I have to take it, and then I stay at the end of every game and get pictures. Those are my 3 rules that I kind of like. I didn't have those at the beginning. I just learned very quickly that I needed to have some kind of like foundational structure for the strip. So
I like that, especially the drink one. That's fire.
Yeah, yeah, I like that a good time. It can be dangerous.
Oh, I'm sure. So, what's been the best from your experience, tailgate or pregame? What game gave you the most drinks that you had to accept, pretty much?
You're gonna be shocked to hear this, but it was actually the first game. It was New Mexico State. New Mexico State. Well, first of all, their student section it's just a giant field with like a DJ, and it's like just like absolutely just banger club atmosphere. And I didn't know this either, but their city is surrounded by mountains, and it was a night game, so like the sun was setting. It was visually like incredible. So they had this whole like absolute rager of a section, and there was a guy dressed as a cowboy, and I was like, golly, this guy's like really into this. And I went up, I was like, I just had to ask, who are you? He goes, I'm the mascot. And I was like, what? Yeah, he's like, yeah, I'm just walking around the student section, I don't think he was drinking or anything, but he was just like getting fired up with kids. And then on the other side, where I got surprisingly very turned, this alumni section. It was actually I think the group, it was called like Joe's Tailgate. It's like infamous. It's like the tailgate at New Mexico State. Miss New Mexico was there. Like Mrs. New Mexico, like the person who won she was there. The basketball team came by. Like I missed them, but like a lot of the coaches came by, and the guy who like hosted me there, he was just like, ha ha ha, you have to do that. He's like, here's all the Mexican tequila. Hey Ben, you want a shot? So that was really fun. And luckily, like that was the only game of the week because I was done. I saw my game in the parking lot, and I was like, if I had a game the next day, I would have not made it. Like I was like, so probably, and then from like a more organized structure of a tailgate, in Austin at UT at Texas, they have like this this tailgate called Hornball, and it's one where you can buy a ticket in advance or like at the door kind of thing. And it's just all these tents, and it's all you can eat, all you can drink. They have like an ice shot luge that is like included, and it's like $60. But they also have like areas you can reserve. So there's 3 bachelor parties that like reserved to like bachelor parties, and they have their own bathroom, their own like liquor, and you can have a private like bartender if you want. So that was kind of cool. And they have breakfast tacos, and they had a bunch of sponsors. So it was like Twin Peaks girls are giving out shots all over the place. So that was a good one too. So I think those are probably 2 of the ones I most remember the most. Like I've been to some really cool ones, like Charlotte. They had an ambulance I was partying out of. So, but yeah, those are probably top 2.
Wow.
You mentioned New Mexico State. Like besides them, what is one fan base where like you didn't expect them to be as insane as they were? You're like, oh my goodness, like, where am I? These people are getting wild. If it is New Mexico State, what's like number 2?
Yeah, I mean, I would say like that's a good question. The times I get the party the hardest are usually the first game of a week and the last game of a week, right? Because like the first time I can get to that city early and kind of go out the night before and yada yada. I would say like App State, like I don't know if you guys saw, I jumped in Duck Pond, which is like a tradition. We win, we swim. And like then that night they were going crazy, and I went to my car to get my towels because I was jumping in a freaking pond, and because I was going to drive my van down next to it, but there was too much traffic. But while I was doing that, get the towels, there were like 30 people waiting there chanting, "Where is Ben? Where?" Like 30 people that were just like, this random guy from the internet is coming and doing our tradition. We want to see him jump. It was 36 degrees, and so they were already like absolutely gone out of their mind. And then I've at Texas State student section is probably the most lit I've seen pregame. Like they have these cages like that, like frat cages, and each frat has their own cage in this parking lot, and they become like their own clubs. Like you walk by and they're all like covered, and you see like girls standing on benches and like mini buses, and it's insane. Like I'm a little old, so I didn't really dabble in it, but I was just took a lap. Mother of God, like if I was 19 to 23, like this would be. So I would say Texas State, like yeah, I was shocked. It was incredible. There was a bus that had probably 1,000 like Natty Light cans in it. I was super, yeah, for sure. And that Texas State probably is number 1.
I'm about to say, I've heard they're crazy, but I never heard that stuff about the cages and all that.
Yeah, like I have video on, not on my phone, but like I have my like small like point and shoot camera. I haven't got to that vlog yet, but like I remember, I think I did like a nice little pan. At some point I'll find the lost footage of Texas State Rangers.
Heck yeah.
So who's had like, what stadiums have had like the best food or like something?
Yeah, so that's a good question. Like as someone who's on the road, I have to be careful of how much I eat, because like I don't want to. I think I've gained like probably 5 or 7 pounds, which is fine. I like going into this, I knew that when you're driving 70 hours a week and you drink everything people hand you. So like just the preface, I don't eat at every stadium. Actually this past weekend I went to BYU, which they don't serve alcohol. It's a Mormon school, obviously, but they had a cougar tail, which is like a giant donut with it's like maple frosting, and every time I go, all right, one more bite, and I ate like half of it, and it's like legitimately like, probably like 3 donuts, and I got like I didn't know this. They have Famous chocolate milk. There's like this company that makes 5 different chocolate milks, and they I just got one of them, but like it was like a dynamic non-lit, like it was like the friendly version of great combination, and they do this thing where the student section will just do like tail passes, where they'll just buy a bunch of cougar tails and like one bite just keep on passing it. So that was kind of cool. That was good food. I had really good like outside of the stadium at some of the tailgates, if that's like if I can answer that like part 2. There's the husband of the women's basketball coach at University of Charlotte made salmon and shrimp, and it was just banging. And I didn't know who he was. He just messaged me on Twitter. He's like, "Hey, we have a shirt and ticket for you if you want to come by our tailgate. Also, you can eat whatever you want." And in his grill, he had like a small little portable grill. He was just grilling shrimp and it was impressive. It was impressive. And he had like the women's basketball team there, so it was like 30, 40 people, and he's just flipping it up on a portable grill. I got at Florida. I'm a Gator, and there was a tailgate I went to that had like sausage that was like soaked, like brat sausage, and he was like, "Yeah, we soaked this for 2 days," and that was, whoo, man, that was probably in the tops. And let's see, one more in stadium food. Let's see. I tried to avoid hot dogs because I've had some like contests where I eat hot dogs, but I did have some. I've had some few brats. I'm trying to think. Sorry, that's a good question. It's just because that's one I'll have to get in the memory bank. For right now, I think it's like it's a recency bias, but the cougar tail was like shockingly good because a lot of times like you have to get this, you have to get this, and like I go okay, like, that was like I dream of cougar tails now. Whatever, I tweeted I love cougars and it kind of like as like bait and that did pretty
well. So have there been any stadiums on the opposite end of the spectrum where you were really excited to get there and then it just was like this wasn't really what I was hoping it'd be?
Yeah, I would say that I didn't know this going in, but Michigan is the biggest stadium in the country, right? And it has the most people. But the way it's designed, just the sound doesn't stay in it. It's very flat stadium. It's like, it has 100. I think the capacity was like 110,900 for the game. I went to the Penn State game, and it was loud, but it just felt like it was kind of like a emptiness about it. I don't know. It was like empty calories, but I mean, you could definitely tell like everyone's trying to be as loud as possible, but it's just like it just didn't stay in. There's stadiums that are like Florida designed, like Seattle, the way the Seahawks stadium is designed, it like stays in the stadium. So that was one, and it's annoying. It's not annoying. If I was a fan there, like I'm screaming my ears out, and you hear someone comes in and says it's not as loud as you expected it. Like that, I don't mean to offend them. It's nothing you can do. Like everyone there screaming as loud as they can. Like I'm surrounded by people that are passionate about, and Michigan, like from like a visual standpoint, when you walk in on a maze out, holy smokes, it was really cool. But just that one little note, I was like, oh, that's weird. I would say, let's see. I went to Lane Stadium, Virginia Tech, and the first 5 minutes of the game is as loud and as electric as any place I've been in the country. And it was a Thursday night sellout. And the first drive, so it was West Virginia. They got the ball first. That first drive, like everyone was loud, very, very loud, very, very loud. They punt. Virginia Tech gets the ball, punts it back, and it ends up at like the 2-yard line. So like West Virginia's like backed up at their own 2. Second possession of the game, 0-0. And I was like, oh, it's going to be even louder right now. And then just kind of fell flat. And like that was another one I was like, huh. Like so those two like kind of at the top of my head were like just like it was just like weird to me. But obviously the Michigan one was like nothing you can do about the design of the stadium at this point because it's a 100-year-old stadium. But the energy on a Thursday night sellout, like it went really flat, really quick, and I was just like, so those are two that I could say off the top of my head. I never want to offend any fan base, but like those two are just mentally.
You start off with the inner Sandman, and I guess it would be hard to just match that energy the rest of the game from my view. But
no, but it's one of those things like you have Inner Sandman, incredible, and all, but then like the yelling and cheering like on every play for that first drive was still like super like I've been to Tiger Stadium at night for Florida LSU like twice, and like that's like as loud as I can hear. At Florida, like they said, it's one of the loudest stadiums because I was like born in the darkness. Like it's so like completely so different for me. But that first 5 minutes, it was like a steep drop off. Like I don't even think I remember much people yelling on first and go like it was just like a weird like little pivot. Wait, sorry, what were you gonna say, Hayden?
I was gonna say, like, I've seen you've gone to like not just like big D1 schools. You've gone to like D2 schools. You went to, like Shorter and like Alabama A&M and stuff like that. What's the game day environment like there for a school? Like, I'm sure it has like diehard fans, but for like a smaller school like that, is it still hype?
Yeah.
Is it really energetic?
Yeah, that's a good question. So Shorter, they're in the race for their conference, and it was homecoming when I went, and it was like the Shorter. It's a small university. No, wait, sure. No, I was thinking St. Francis. I'm sorry. Shorter. That game, yeah, that was a game where it's interesting because they rent their stadium from the city, so the stadium on the field it actually says like Rome, which is the high school. So
Yeah.
like they were playing on a high school stadium, and then the next day like a private school was renting it. But I do remember they had a good turnout. Like the basketball team was there, so like at least like the athletes were supporting the athletes, and there was a good amount of fans. It was a cold. That was probably a top 5 coldest day, and that was a funny one because I sat on the Delta State side. So it was Delta State against Shorter, and I tweeted a video. There was a big man touchdown, and I was able to get like the back half of it, like him like probably from the 50 running it all back, and I posted it on Twitter, and the wife of like one of the O-line coaches or something at Delta State replied to my tweet and goes, "Can you go see if you can get the camera for the online stream, like someone to like take over it because it's been pointing at the end zone for the whole first half." So I was like, "What?" So I was like, I guess I have a new goal for this game. So I legitimately at halftime, because it was like right before halftime, I went over and I walked up the staircase to on the Shorter side, and like it was like I saw a camera that was just pointing at the end zone. So I was like, it's got to be this camera. And I was like, "Hey guys, question from the internet, like, is someone like running this camera?" And they go, "Yeah, like we only have one SD card and it's broken." And I was like, "Okay, do you need it? I have 3 SD cards and I'm just like, you want to borrow one?" And they're like, "No, it's fine." I was like, "Okay, like, I just want to make sure everything." But the people there were super nice, and it's one of those things. It's like most people there are, they got their band there, their cheerleaders there, and then coaches and family, and then some student athletes, some other ones. But then you have like, those schools. It's cool because I actually enjoy going to the smaller schools more because it gives me more of an opportunity to potentially like ask people why they love their school, right? Because most of the trip is I try to interview at least one person from each school. And I got a really cool interview at St. Francis, which is a small school 45 minutes outside of Penn State. And it was someone from the sports, like she does like mentoring for the student athletes, but she used to be a lacrosse player. And she was tabling for like an after the game event where like kids could get autographs. And she was just like way away from the field by herself and just sitting at the table, like probably 25, 30 yards. And I just look and it's like, shit, why not? So I like started walking over there. I was like, this is very random. And I was like probably like 25 yards away. I was like, can I just like sit and hang out with you? And she's like, yeah. So I like with her and watched the game and like just talk to her. And then I was like, and then she was, and I do like on my camera, I do like a like 1 or 2 minute video, just like, because I don't have time to post them all right now. I do when I can, but and it's those people, between those schools and I've been to a few HBCU schools like University of Arkansas Pine Bluff, which I think has like the coolest logo in college sports. It's this lion with the mane, and the mane says UAPB, and it's like it's like very, very low key, like one of the coolest logos. And like me just going in there genuinely being like, I always buy a shirt and hat, so that kind of gives me a way to start a conversation, right? And they love that, like I'm just spending time investing in their schools and learning the traditions and cultures. And it's funny that the UAPB game, when I was leaving, the husband of the woman that I bought a shirt from like ran up and was like, "Hey, like, do you need anything else? Do you want another interview?" Like, and they were like, "We would love to keep telling the story." And so I was like, "Yeah," like, and usually what I'll do is I'll like tell them in advance, like, "Here's what I'll ask you," and he was like, "I don't need a preface, just whatever you like. I want to do it off the cuff." Like it's just like they want like the smaller schools, and not even if I step up to like D1 level schools, I would say Marshall, App State, even Washington State, like these schools that they don't feel like they get represented on a national level. I learned this, Pullman, where Washington State is, it's the smallest school in D1. Like it's city. So Pullman, Washington is the smallest like city in all of D1, right? So, and it's funny, I tweeted on my way to Pullman that Pullman was giving me Huntington and Boone vibes. Huntington's where Marshall is, and Boone is where App State is, and like it was literally the same. The way they love their schools and the way that they open their doors to me and say, "I want to show you this world and why we love our schools." And so that it's really cool to see like on every level. All the big schools, Ohio State, Michigan, Florida, LSU. Like obviously they have massive fan bases, but there's also like people that are just there for the vibes, which is fine. But like people that show up to the, these games like Short or St. Francis, Washington State, like they know their history. They know like, if you go to Auburn's the same way too. I'm a big Auburn fan, even though I'm a Gator. Like if you're an Auburn fan, you're like blood Auburn fan. So it's cool to go to all these different schools and learn history and talk, like have a drink, share a story.
Yeah, so we all three went to Marshall, so we're big Marshall guys.
Well, there you go. I'm glad I did not know that, and I'm glad that I could talk genuinely about your school and before that. Yeah, like Huntington, Marshall. Like I think I would say like Marshall was the first. That was like the jump off point of this trip for me.
Yeah.
Like I was driving from Tucson, where I'm now, to Huntington, and that's 1,911 miles from my apartment to the campus. And I tweeted, like, I probably shouldn't have recorded while driving, but I do it. I don't really care. I was like, all right, guys. What I've decided to do is originally I was going to do like YouTube vlogs and try to post them and edit them, but it takes way too much time to do that.
Yeah.
Like, my God. So I've decided to do this. I've decided to do like what I call micro vlogging, where I'll just do like the hook for like 45 seconds to a minute, and I post it on Twitter. And like that was, I think that probably was one of the first ones I did.
That's where I just discovered who you were. It was from you saying I'm leaving from Arizona to Marshall.
Yeah, so I think I did one or two before that, because I did Orlando to San Jose, and that's probably when I first did it. And then that was the next, like, because I was coming down San Diego and then back over. So yeah, like that one. I mean, I tagged like the aggregator, so like Barstool Marshall, Sideline to Marshall. And Marshall like quote tweeted it and said like, if this guy can drive 1,900 miles, you'll be able to get out of your dorm room for Thursday night. And like 2 hours later, Coach Huff like followed me and DM'd me. It was like, hey, get to H-Town and we'll take care of you. Yeah, and I've never had a coach reach out to me at all. Like for a game I'm going to. I've had like actually at this point, coaches from other schools, like position coaches or D-line coaches. I think I had one head coach from like a smaller school. Well, they'll like DM me like, we would love for you to come to our school if you could fit it on your schedule. And that's like super humbling, because it shows that not only is it like, originally this was like, I'm doing this road trip, I'm going to break this record, but very quickly it's become, we are doing this together. Like I've had over 150 people Venmo me. And like I give out stuff from the road. I'm way behind. Like I'm at this point, it's all gonna happen at the end. Like I've given out 90 thank you letters, and I give out all the hats that I get. But yeah, it's I mean, but all of it's going on credit cards, and I don't know, like, I think the national championship's in 71 days, maybe. I don't know what's going to happen after this. But I'm living in the moment. I wake up every day, like, I just got to figure it out today. Right. So right now I don't have registration for, I don't have a tag. Like, I'm like, do I just drive and just hope I don't get pulled over for having an expired tag, even though I paid? This is like the one thing for this trip that I was like, I just need to make sure that I get my new, like, my stickers. And I had to time, like, they don't let you do it too far in advance. And so I was like, all right, do it. And I had it mailed with like 2 weeks window. And I get here and my mailbox is empty. And I was just like, what am I going to do? Like, what do I do about that? Right.
Yeah.
So I'll figure it out. And, if I get pulled over in the next, it's like my license, it's October 2022. So, I got to hold my breath for like 2.5 months if I just say screw it and go for it. But yeah, it's what happens. To be fair, I've seen a lot of people with expired plates on the road on this road trip and in my real life. Like once I saw someone at a Wendy's drive-through that I on this trip that had a like 2019 sticker, and I was just like, okay, well they're doing fine. I guess.
Yeah, I guess they're just living on the run.
Did you ever make the trip to the Union after the Marshall game?
I went to like the student union.
You said you tweeted and was like, I'm going to the Union or something. It's like our main bar on campus.
Wait.
After the Marshall game, I could have swore that you tweeted that.
Yeah, I saw that too for sure.
The Union. Where did I go after the Marshall game? Wow, hold on. Give me a
If
second.
you don't remember, you probably did go to the Union because that's the first memory you got.
Okay, yeah. Because I was gonna meet the Marshall people. Yeah. So I went there and I ordered a double rum and diet with lime, and I kind of just hung out and I texted the Barstool people, and I waited like I gave them an hour, and I never heard back. And I was like, okay, well, I'm exhausted, and I just drove all the way across the country, so I went to Union, and it was packed, and I met some people from you guys played Louisiana Lafayette, right? So
Yeah.
I'm a Gator, and their head coach went to Florida, so I like talked to some people about Billy Napier, and they were not happy that I mentioned him. So I do remember that, and also I learned this like I guess in the year before there was like a player that got hurt, and there's like Billy Napier was laughing or something about it. Do you remember this?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, so I also realized very quickly I shouldn't go bring up Billy Napier to anyone in the stadium. So I did go there, and then I went to Waffle House after that. I do remember that, and then I like I'm pretty sure I fell asleep waiting for my food, and then I woke up and I was like, oh, this is nice.
I've had a few of those nights here as well.
Yeah, so I did go to the Union. Yes, I remember now. I forgot the name of the bar. But once I was like, yeah, did I go to a bar that night? Yes, I did.
Yeah, awesome. So we don't want to take up too much more of your time. Just real fast, what's kind of been your biggest takeaway from all of this?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say, it's one of those things where, my thesis going into this trip was nothing brings our communities together more than college athletics, specifically college football. Like more than religion, more than politics, more than like anything. And I hear a lot of people, on this trip and like just in general say, "Oh, I would never want to live in California, or I'd never want to live here, or X, Y, there, or whatever. I couldn't imagine living here." And like, so part of this is, what I've learned is, a few things. Starting at the top, like tell people what you want to do, and they're gonna help you get there, right? So this trip is, I was like, I'm doing 60 games, and they're like, no, we're doing it. Now you're doing 70 games, bitch. Like, and it's everyone says like, you want to go for your passions, and this is like what I'm passionate about. And am I having a lot of fun? Yes, is it? But it's a lot of work too. Like whatever you end up doing in your life, like if you want the life that you want, like it's gonna take work. Like you just don't fall into these things. Everyone's like, oh, like I get a lot of comments, and I kind of just keep it moving. Like, oh, it must be nice to spend, have an endless bank account and spend it on frivolous things. And I'm like, thanks, guy whose profile says he's a sports writer. Like, like what are you talking about? So like, whenever you're doing something that you love, you're gonna have haters, and that's another thing I've learned. And back to like, just like the community and this thesis is like, these people from every school have passionate fans, and like fourth, fifth generation, families that go to these schools. Like one of my best friends from grad school, he was a fourth generation Auburn Tiger, and his sister's about to have a fifth generation Auburn Tiger. Like that's insane, right? Like being a part of it, and then going to these small schools like St. Francis was founded in 1847. The state of Florida was founded in 1845, right? So this school is 2 years younger than the whole state. Like, so that has like history, tradition, and people want to share that. There's stories to be told. Like, it's not just all like, going to a fraternity and just putting a microphone in front of a kid and him yelling and, oh, go state, hail state. Like, that's cool. Like, it's funny, but like, there's a deeper like reason people go to schools, and that's kind of what the story is, and people want to share that, right? And I don't know what the end of this has to hold, but it'd be cool. And I've had multiple people say this. You're like the Anthony Bourdain of college athletics. Please let me be the Anthony Bourdain. Like, I would love that, right? Like go to these schools on like a Thursday, show up, go to the bars, hang out. Like, and I think I'm a good time. Like, people nice, like, and I take it, and I've been handed like. And kind of like they're like, oh, our tradition is to take shots of fireball. Let's freaking go. Let's take let's go. Like, if we win, we're jumping in this pond. It's 36 degrees out, but you're gonna do it. Like, and just telling the story, and like, each one of these schools, like big school, small school, like D1, like they all have cool, fun things, and I would love to open that. Like, do you guys know about like the cabooses at the cock cabooses at South Carolina? No one does. And it's like one of the coolest college sports. Like they have right outside their stadium, they have legit train cars that are owned by families, and they're passed down a generation. And you can go from the train car, which you tailgate at, right into the stadium, a private entrance. And these are owned and generate, like you have to die. It's in your will. Like these are cool things that people don't know about. And I don't know.
Damn.
Right now. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know if I can top that answer, but
That was an incredible answer.
Yeah.
So real fast, I know Cini was asking about this maybe before we got on. You've seen a lot of really good color matchups for uniforms.
Yeah.
Is there one that stands out where just aesthetically watching it, you're like, this is a fantastic football game?
Like colorways like between the two
Yeah.
schools.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I mean, let's see. That's a good question, and it's funny because like everyone has something different that they love about sports. Like, and I really love colorways. Like Florida, the Gators are always picky about the way like what they dress in.
Mhm.
Let me just think for a second. I did like when Ohio State did the blackout and like their black uniforms with against Wisconsin's white, and like the whole stadium was blackout. And it's funny, I've been to 3 blackouts, which is kind of weird. I like the Marshall blackout too, and I think that was the first time they wore those helmets.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the first time ever.
And then this last week, Wazoo, Washington State. This is a cool final story to end this on, actually.
Yeah.
So I guess like their administration was for a long time, including presidents, was like against like Wazoo, like using the Wazoo as like part of their school, right? And
Mhm.
I just happened to be at the game where the new they like greenlit like we're leaning into Wazoo, and they have like helmets now, and I think I'm one of the first people to wear a Wazoo helmet. Like they're like, you want to try this out? Sure. And they're like, really,
Awesome.
they went with the red and red colorway, and then Utah, who I've seen 3 times now, that was their first win. They had a tribute helmet for two players that had passed away in like shootings, and I didn't know that story until after the game because I'm watching. They're not going to tell it like over the announcers,
Mhm.
but like I was lucky enough to get invited on the field and got to see that like up close those helmets and like the color like that was so those 3 kind of stick out to me, and especially because that story at the end between both. I mean both of those jerseys had stories, and that's another thing. Like it's kind of cool to hear and see like that's how much people love their schools, right? They're going to do these other things that add value to the story that is college football. At the end of the day, people are like, you're going to these blowouts or you're going to these close games. Like the games are so like far down the list of things that I care about at this point. Everyone's like, you should have been at Texas, you should have been at Alabama, Tennessee. Like, yeah, like to be fair, like my original outline had me going to Tennessee, Georgia, but like I was invited to Kansas, so like now I'm going to like if someone invites me somewhere and they're like, we're going to take care of you, like it's hard to pass that up. Also, I don't have $500 to go to Tennessee, Georgia. Like,
Yeah.
but yeah, so that's those are probably 3 that stick out right now, and that's it. I probably need to go back and think about that one for sure. But that's a good question.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this. We will link down and show all of your social medias, links, and stuff so people can follow your journey as you go 470. And best of luck. Thank you so much for joining us.